Can I ask a question? Because we were talking before the show, and I kind of, the reason I was sort of pausing is I wrote down to Wellington. I'm going to ask this now. So there was a quote actually that I think that by Ayanda Kota, which we were going to put on the screen in a minute, and it's a quote about that those struggling for emancipatory politics can't support struggles that are organized on tribalist, male chauvinist, and ethnic basis. Everything that we are opposed to as a people that are struggling for emancipatory politics. I mean, that's very straightforward, right? Yeah. And in the same interview, I think he said something about that the Edward Zumas, the radical economic transformation crowd, they don't stand for the people on a principle basis. Their aim is only to dethrone the current regime so they can do the same loot. My question is really, the thing that baffles me is like, what's the thing that's going to emerge? Because as far as I'm concerned, I think the ANC project is a dead end. They can keep governing, but it's essentially electionism. So if an emancipatory or a politics that's going to emerge that could organize these working class people, right, for a political project, it cannot also fall out of thin air. It has to be like in concrete struggles. And the EFF, I think, was built on an actual, right. There was Marikana. That, I think, was what gave us the EFF. And we know the EFF project, and we've spoken to you about this before on the show, that there are people that are invested in the EFF genuinely because they think the EFF presents an emancipatory project. I think a lot of people would agree with me that that's not the case anymore. So we have to look and see where do we see. I don't think we can give up completely. So one suggestion I would make, and then I want to hear your reaction. In the United States, the argument was that Occupy happened in 2011, and that initially a lot of people there said, "Oh, Occupy it was a failure. It didn't amount to much. What it amounted to was a couple of people got some book contracts. Other people got a TV show maybe or something." Similarly, I think initially with Black Lives Matter, it quickly dissolved into recrimination and arguments about it became NGOs. I think DeRay McKesson ended up running for mayor, I think, of Baltimore on a platform that was about charter schools. So the initial assessment of those movements were it wasn't going to amount to anything. But then by 2016, I would say, you saw the emergence of course, we saw it terribly in the United States, they had Donald Trump. But what they did have was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez as an electoral project. They had Bernie Sanders's brilliant run, right, in the Democratic primary, and it was only the party that stopped him. The party had to use the systems, the electoral system, if you want, of their party system to get rid of him, correct? And since then, you've seen Cori Bush, I forget her name, but there's a new mayor of Buffalo who describes herself openly as a socialist. There has been, Jamal Bowman. I could go on and on. I'm just saying, like, they've seen something there. So let me give you one example. Is there something left, the remnants of the student movement we always come back to them because I think that's the last kind of major organized political movement that had, I think, some coherent critique of some kind of post-apartheid South Africa. Maybe we shouldn't even talk about them, but is there something that we could see or feel that is, in other words, that's not out of thin air, but it is real and can provide the impetus for something that can, because we have to, everybody says, oh, this thing is what's happening in South Africa is tragic, it's devastating, it's horrible to watch. The solution cannot be a solution about securitization, like security, bring in the army, bring in the police, or the other one, which is that it will eventually become a kind of a racial violence. So what is this other thing that is there Is there something there? Even Will can answer if he wants, but you got to go first for me. Where do we see this? Is it there? And where is it?
That was a lot, so I'm gonna try and. So I think I was feeling very hopeless yesterday, and I was speaking to a dear comrade Mazibuko Jaha yesterday, and I was given a little sense of hope and possibility. And I think that sense of hope and possibility is not something that exists within a political party in this country at the moment. And I think perhaps what we should stop focusing on is electoral politics and rebuilding a left in South Africa, and a left from below. A left that, we have to, nothing is as it was. So this idea that, we can organize ourselves in the way it was in the 80s or the 70s or the 90s, it's not. And we have to go back to, I'm talking like I was there, but there has to be a different way in which we're organizing ourselves. And I think the point that Comrade Ayanda makes around not organizing around reactionary politics, organizing an emancipatory politics that is anti-racist, anti-sexist, anti-capitalist, is really fundamental. And I think there is potential for that. But I also don't think that it is as clean and as cookie cutter as we only organize with. I think that bubble for me has burst, unfortunately. I think we have to find comrades where they are at, and it is in struggle that we are going to win comrades and build, as long as, foundationally in the way in which we are organizing and building is based on emancipatory principles and politics, and around collective care. I think that's really will be fundamental. And so I was, as I saw something popped up, and so part of, what's happening at the moment, I do think one of the things the left has to do is to reject the South African Defence Force being sent to the streets of South Africa. I think it is going, and as we've seen reports today, it is going to be a disaster. We're going to see more people killed, more violence coming from the state. It has never been a machinery that has defended people. It has been a machinery that has defended the state and property. And so the other thing is, it has to be a politics that we are developing that counters remnants of and continued the shift that we see to the right of many South Africans in the minority in this country who didn't stop organizing themselves in 1994, who we're seeing arm themselves in Eshowe, in Durban, in other parts of their white suburban enclaves, which is really, really scary and dangerous.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I think you make incredibly important points there. I think the only thing I'd like to add, and I think you've kind of suggested the what is to be done for us already, but I think related to your point that we need to think about new ways of organizing, what I think shows me a slight glimmer of hope from this recent unrest is seeing more and more South Africans, ordinary South Africans, who reflect openly and honestly on the fact that South Africa, as the current social arrangements go, simply doesn't work. I think a lot of people are slowly starting to realize, to certain and varying degrees, that you simply cannot have a country like ours that has such an extreme concentration of wealth and such an extremely widespread level of indigence. You can't have a society that has a township and right next to it the richest square mile in Africa. And I think that whichever political project that we craft in the embers of this unrest, who knows how long it'll go for, who knows what will come next, I think needs to present transformation in South Africa. Not necessarily, I think, as an explicitly left advance. We don't need to say we're struggling for socialism. That's the inevitable goal, absolutely. But I think it just needs to say what we need to do is create a society that at the very least works, that is sustainable, that supports the majority of people and provides them with healthcare, provides them with transport, provides them with education. And this should be available to everyone. It should be something that exists regardless of your class position, but is based on an idea of citizenship where if you want to have citizenship beyond just having the rights to vote, if you want to create meaningful citizenship, then meaningful citizenship comes through social provision, comes through providing people all the means that they need to flourish individually and collectively.